Hey, what's up guys? I'm at one of my favorite courses, the Flying Mile Tone Pole course, and this is what's in my bag. We'll start with my putting putter. I'm using the Blend Luna. I've got a stack of 5 of these that I rotate in and out. I'm just using these for putting, so they don't really beat up very much. I'll probably use these for a couple years. Good straight flight in circle 1 and circle 2. I'm using these for everything that I'm trying to make, essentially. If I start getting outside circle 2 and I need something that's not going to fade out quite as much, I've got a Big Z Roach, just a little bit more understable than the Luna. I'm using this for long jump putts and off the tee for really just straight to turnover shots. If I need something to flip up a little bit, I'll throw this. And this is kind of a special one. I got my first Discraft ace after switching last year on the Tone Pole course. Hole 18 had a nice walk-off ace earlier this summer. This is a good straight flyer for me. And then we've got a Crystal Flex Glow Ringer from the Ledgestone runs. As far as ringers go, this one is, I would say, pretty understable. I'll throw this flat and it'll just drift right ever so slightly and then fade out a little bit. I'll throw this for forehand shots that I need to go perfectly straight with no drift one way or the other. Probably my go-to driving putter this year. Pretty flexible too, so if it hits any trees, it's really not deflecting too far, just kind of hits and sits. And then we've got the Ringer's big brother. I've got the DGA Breaker. If this is not the same mold, it's incredibly close to the Ringer mold. Feels the same in the hand, but this SP Sparkle plastic is just a little bit more overstable. I'll throw this for straight to hyzer finishes, forehand and backhand. Really reaching for this one anytime I just need a good overstable finish and shots up to 250 feet. And then I've got this old Glow Flex Challenger in the bubblegum plastic. This thing is very, very understable, especially for such a new disc. It's pretty much in brand new condition, even though it's probably 7 or 8 years old at this point. Really understable. I'll throw this for low power straight shots, or if I need to get around something in the woods, I can throw a high turnover shot and I can be confident that it's not going to fade out at all. Up next we've got a zone. Is it a putter? Is it a mid-range? I don't know, you can decide. I'm reaching for this one for everything from 225 to 325 probably. If I've got room to throw a hyzer, I can throw a little forehand flex shots, put a little anhyzer on it and it'll just slowly fight out of it. As far as zones go, this one's kind of on the straight side. It's not gonna fade out too early. Get a nice flight and then finish hard left. All right, this is kind of a cool one. I stole this one from Mackenzie's bag right when I switched to Discraft, Z Comet. This is one I can rely on to fly right the entire flight. Just easy distance. Put a little hyzer on it, it'll flip up and just drift right the whole flight. This is one I can rely on to not finish left. So I'm reaching for this anytime I need to make sure I'm not gonna fade out. All right, next up I've got a Z Buzz. This is easily the oldest disc in my bag. I threw this one before I was throwing with Legacy, so this one was on the shelf for 5 years, and when I switched to Discraft, it was the first one back in the bag. It's kind of a sneaky fast disc. I can get this out to about 400 feet, throw it flat, and it'll drift right the whole flight, and just use this one mainly for straight shots and hitting tunnels. But this one's kind of a cool one, just how old it is. And next up, the Buzz's big brother. We got Tour Series Wasp. My buddy Matt Odie hooked me up with this one. This one's got a pretty big gash in it, you can see right here. So it's kind of pre-broken in for me. I'll throw this flat and hard and it'll drift right throughout the flight, and then at the end it's still got that good overstable finish. All right, moving on to fairway drivers. This is kind of the section I don't have everything quite dialed in yet, but I've got an X Heat. This is another one I grabbed from Mackenzie's bag. I'm using this for rollers and kind of big turnover shots. Easily the most understable fairway driver I've got. Next up, we've got a Z Undertaker. This is one I was kind of hoping to fill that straight to overstable fairway slot, but these Undertakers ended up being, I would say, more understable than I would have guessed. So this is in the slot for straight to turnover shots, so straight to right in the woods, hyzer flip. And if I've got enough space, I can give this some air and let it ride right for a long, long way. Just easy distance with this one. Next up, we've got an old 2013 Race Mantis. Right now, this is what I'm using for that straight to overstable fairway shot, and just haven't quite found any of the production runs that fit that shot for me. So right now I'm throwing this. I've got a stack of these. I actually played 2 of these Ace races back in 2013, so I've got a bunch of these. The bad part is they're kind of these awful titanium colors, so I'm always hesitant to throw these on really thick wooded holes because they're pretty tough to find in the woods, but a good disc to have for that straight to overstable finish. Now this is kind of a Nate Doss classic. I've got a Turnover Predator. This thing has been chewed up by a dog a little bit, and it's, as far as Predator goes, it is very, very understable. I'll throw this with a little bit of hyzer and I can get it to turn over the entire flight and just barely fade out at the end. I'll throw this for straight shots that I need to turn and not finish left. Oddly enough, just find yourself a chewed up Predator and you got that shot. I've got an ESP Raptor for overstable forehand and backhand shots, 325 to 400. I'm probably throwing this forehand or backhand if I've got room to throw a big hyzer in the air. Nice and overstable. It's breaking in nicely, so it's getting a good amount of flight before it hooks up and dies. Okay, now on to the distance drivers. I'm throwing quite a few molds, but I'm still figuring out the stabilities, and I think in the past I've only thrown 1 or 2 driver molds and just different stabilities, but right now I've got a bunch of different molds to cover all of the stability ranges. So most understable distance driver is a first run Crank SS that I got from my buddy Barrett. This thing is super flippy. I'll throw this for huge turnover drives, rollers, and just any long distance shot that I want to make sure it's not going to fade out at the end of the flight. Then I've got a Z-Flex Crank, also from Barrett. I'll throw this for straight to turnover shots. This has got a little bit more stability than the Crank SS, so this will fade out a little bit if I give it enough height. But I'm throwing this for pretty much just straight to turnover shots. Then you've got a first run ESP Crank. This is one I'm probably reaching for tailwind max distance drives. It's got a nice amount of flip up and it'll just ride straight for the whole flight and get a tiny bit of finish at the end. Big turnover shots in calm conditions, but mainly tailwind drives with this one. The newest addition to the bag is the Z Scorch. I think this is going to be probably one of my staples as it breaks in. Right now I think it's a little bit more overstable than its true flight is going to be, but this thing is laser straight out to about 400 feet and then just gets a tiny bit of fade. As it breaks in, I think this one's going to be an absolute bomber when it starts getting some turn in the early flight. Up next, I've got the prototype overmold from the Meltdown tournament I ran. Every single tournament I've played this year, I've fooled somebody with this one by telling them Discraft has bought MVP and they're putting out a a prototype overmold. In reality, it's just the Z-Force, nice and broken in. I throw this for any drive, 350 to 450, that I've got room to throw a big hyzer, forehand or backhand. But this one's pretty funny when I pull it out for the first time. Somebody sees it, they always think it's an MVP disc, but just put a nice little die on it myself. All right, this is my main driver for sure, ESP Nuke. Anytime I need max distance with some control, I'm gonna be reaching for this. It'll pop up nice on a hyzer and glide out. I don't know if you can hear it, it's got that pop top. Just easy distance with this one for me. Out to 525 to 550, somewhere in that range if I get it right. But it also has enough stability that I can count on it fading back at the end of its flight. And last but not least, the staple in my bag for years, even when I was with Legacy, is the Nuke OS. I'm throwing this mainly for overhands, thumbers and tomahawks. I'll throw forehand rollers with this. If I need a big skip shot, I'll reach for this. Very situation specific, but this disc I can hit a lot of different shots with. It's so overstable, you can put it on some crazy angles and you can count on it finishing hard. Thanks to Ryan Rhodes for hooking me up with this one. These are kind of hard to come by the past year with all the plastic shortages. So that's all the discs. I'd say typically I carry a bunch of extra backups in tournaments, but those are my main throwers, and we'll see you out there.